The crowd parted like the Red Sea as Olivia Montgomery fell face first into the mud, her once pristine blue dress now stained beyond recognition. Jeers and cruel laughter erupted from the group of men who'd pushed her, their drunken slurs cutting through the typical afternoon bustle of Saint Elmo, Colorado in 1883. She struggled to rise, dignity shattered as much as her composure, when a shadow fell across her mudded form. "You don't belong down there," a deep voice said, strong hands reaching down to help her up. Olivia looked up through mud-speckled eyelashes to find a stranger standing above her, tall, broad-shouldered, with piercing green eyes beneath the brim of a well-worn Stetson. His expression was hard as granite as he glared at the laughing men, but his touch was gentle as he helped her to her feet. "Samuel Hayes," he introduced himself simply, removing his coat and draping it over her shoulders without hesitation. "And these boys need to learn some manners." The drunken men sobered quickly at Samuel's imposing figure and the dangerous glint in his eye. They muttered half-hearted apologies before scattering like roaches when the light comes on. "Thank you," Olivia managed, trying to wipe mud from her face with equally mudded hands. "I'm Olivia Montgomery. I just arrived on today's coach," Samuel nodded, his gaze softening slightly. "Welcome to Saint Elmo, Miss Montgomery, though I wish the reception had been kinder." "So do I," she said, attempting a weak smile. "I'm afraid I've made quite the first impression." "Not your doing," he replied, guiding her toward the nearby boardwalk. "Let's get you somewhere you can clean up." Olivia had come west with dreams of independence and purpose after her father's passing left her with little in Philadelphia. The teaching position in Saint Elmo represented everything she'd hoped for: a fresh start, away from painful memories and the suffocating expectations of Eastern society. Now, mud-soaked and humiliated on her first day, she questioned her decision as Samuel led her toward a modest building with a hand-painted sign reading Hayes General Store. "My sister can help you get cleaned up," Samuel explained, holding the door open. "Sarah," he called into the store. "We've got a situation." A petite woman with the same striking green eyes as Samuel appeared from behind the counter. She assessed the situation in one quick glance. "Land sakes, what happened to you, poor thing?" Sarah rushed forward, taking Olivia by the arm. "Sam, put the closed sign up." "I'm taking her upstairs." "Those Clayton boys pushed her in the mud," Samuel explained, jaw tight with anger. "Right in front of the whole town." Sarah clicked her tongue in disapproval. "Those boys need a proper thrashing. Come along, Miss Montgomery." "Olivia Montgomery," she supplied, embarrassment burning her cheeks. "The new school teacher." Sarah's eyes widened. "We've been expecting you, though not quite like this." Upstairs in the Hayes living quarters, Sarah helped Olivia wash away the mud and provided a simple but clean dress. "It's not fancy, but it'll do until yours can be laundered." "It's perfect, thank you." Olivia smoothed her hands over the calico fabric. "I don't know what I would have done if your brother hadn't stepped in." Sarah smiled knowingly. Samuel's always had a soft spot for those in need of defending. "Our pa taught him that a real man stands up for others, especially women and children." "He seems like a good man," Olivia said carefully. "The best," Sarah affirmed. "Been running this store since Pa died 3 years ago, taking care of me until I married John last year. Now he's all alone up here, stubborn as a mule about it too." When they returned downstairs, Samuel was behind the counter, helping an elderly woman with her purchases. He looked up when they entered, and Olivia felt a curious flutter in her chest at the way his eyes widened slightly at her transformation. "Miss Montgomery," he nodded. "You look better." Sarah rolled her eyes. "Such a way with words, my brother." After thanking them profusely, Olivia reluctantly prepared to leave. "I should find the schoolhouse and get settled before nightfall." "I'll walk you," Samuel offered immediately. "It's not far, but you shouldn't have to carry all your things after what happened." The afternoon sun cast long shadows as they walked through St. Elmo's dusty Main Street. The town was smaller than Olivia had imagined, a collection of wooden buildings nestled in a valley surrounded by towering mountains dusted with early October snow. "It's beautiful here," she remarked, trying to ignore the stares from townsfolk who had witnessed her earlier humiliation. "Gets in your blood," Samuel agreed. "Been here since I was 10 when Pa brought us west after Ma died." "I'm sorry about your mother," he shrugged. "Long time ago." "What brings you to St. Elmo?" Most Easterners take one look at our little mining town and can't wait for the next stage out. How do you know I'm from back east? The corner of his mouth quirked up. Your accent, and those fancy boots that weren't made for these roads. Olivia laughed softly. I suppose I'm rather obvious. Philadelphia, born and raised, but after my father died last winter, there wasn't much keeping me there. They arrived at a small cabin with attached classroom that would serve as both Olivia's home and workplace. Samuel carried her trunk inside and lit the stove while Olivia surveyed her new surroundings. It's perfect, she declared, despite the dust and sparse furnishings. Samuel looked skeptical. It's been empty since old Mrs. Whittaker left last spring. Town council's been struggling to find a replacement willing to come all the way out here. Well, they found one, Olivia said with determination. I may not look it today, but I'm made of sterner stuff than those Clayton boys think. Samuel studied her face, something shifting in his expression. I believe you are, Miss Montgomery. As he prepared to leave, Olivia caught his sleeve. Mr. Hayes, thank you again. Not everyone would have helped a stranger covered in mud. Anyone decent would have, he replied simply. Perhaps, but it was you who did. A flush crept up his neck. School starts Monday, 8 sharp. You'll have 12 students ages 6 to 16. Good kids, mostly. I'll be ready, she promised. Samuel paused at the door. The general store gets deliveries on Tuesdays if you need anything. He left the offer hanging. I'll know where to find you, Olivia finished with a smile. After he left, Olivia sat on her trunk and took a deep breath. This wasn't how she'd imagined her arrival, but perhaps it was fitting. Saint Elmo would not be easy, but neither was she. And the memory of strong hands helping her from the mud gave her a curious strength she hadn't expected to find on her first day in the West. The schoolhouse bell rang promptly at 8 o'clock Monday morning as Olivia welcomed her students. Word of her inglorious arrival had spread, and she could see curiosity in the children's eyes as they filed in, some shy, some bold, all wondering about their new teacher. Good morning, she greeted them warmly. I'm Miss Montgomery, and I'm very pleased to meet you all. A small girl with pigtails raised her hand immediately. Is it true you fell in the mud and Mr. Hayes had to save you like a knight? Olivia laughed, deciding honesty was the best approach. I didn't fall, actually. I was pushed by some not very nice men. And yes, Mr. Hayes helped me up and was very kind. Pa says those Clayton boys are nothing but trouble, said an older boy in the back. They work up at the silver mine and think they own the town. Well, today we're going to focus on learning, not town troubles, Olivia redirected firmly. Now let's see what you all know, shall we? By midday, Olivia had a fair assessment of her students' abilities. Most were behind their Eastern counterparts, but their practical knowledge often exceeded what any city child would know. They could calculate mining shares and timber loads in their heads but struggled with formal grammar. As the children ate their lunch outside, Samuel Hayes appeared at the schoolhouse door, hat in hand. Mr. Hayes, Olivia greeted him, surprised. What brings you here? He shifted uncomfortably, looking around the classroom. Wanted to make sure everything was suitable. Very suitable, thank you, she smiled. Though I could use some more chalk and readers if you have them at your store. I'll bring them by tomorrow, he promised quickly. The children behaving wonderfully, though they seem quite interested in how you rescued me. A flush crept up his neck. Children talk too much. It's one of their most charming qualities, Olivia teased. Then, more seriously, I never properly thanked you for your kindness. No need, he insisted, turning his hat in his hands. Just wanted to check if you needed anything. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them before Samuel cleared his throat. I should get back to the store, Olivia nodded, strangely disappointed. Of course. Thank you for checking on me. As promised, Samuel delivered school supplies the next day and then found reasons to stop by regularly after that, bringing firewood, fixing a loose floorboard, delivering a package that might have been meant for the school. Each visit was brief, his manner gruff but gentle, and each time he left, Olivia found herself watching the door long after he'd gone. The first snow fell in early November, transforming Saint Elmo into a glistening wonderland that took Olivia's breath away. She stood outside the schoolhouse after dismissing her students, face turned up to catch snowflakes, when she heard the crunch of boots approaching. You'll catch your death standing out here without proper covering, Samuel chided, draping a thick woolen shawl around her shoulders. It's magnificent, she breathed, gesturing to the mountains. I've never seen anything like it. First winter in the mountains, he observed. It gets cold enough to freeze the air in your lungs. Are you trying to frighten me, Mr. Hayes? She asked, turning to face him. He was standing closer than she'd realized, and his expression softened. No, madam, just concerned. I'm learning to be hardy, she assured him. The children have been teaching me all about mountain winters. They're good teachers, but book learning only goes so far. He hesitated. There's a town gathering Saturday night. Folks get together before winter really sets in. Music, dancing, food. Olivia waited, heart quickening despite herself. Samuel cleared his throat. Thought you might want to attend, meet more of the town proper like, not just as their children's teacher. Are you inviting me, Mr. Hayes? His green eyes met hers directly. I am. If you'd like to go, I would, she replied softly. The gathering was held in the town hall, a large room above the assay office that had been transformed with lanterns and pine boughs. Nearly every resident of Saint Elmo was present, and Olivia found herself welcomed warmly, her muddy introduction now a source of fond amusement rather than embarrassment. Samuel stayed close by her side, introducing her to miners, shopkeepers, and ranchers from the surrounding area. She noticed the approving glances from the older women and the calculating looks from younger ones. Everyone seems to know you well, she observed as they shared apple cider near the punch table. Small town, he shrugged. Can't avoid knowing everyone, good and bad. And which are you, Mr. Hayes? She teased. He looked at her thoughtfully. Depends who you ask, I suppose. I'm asking you. Before he could answer, the small band struck up a lively tune and couples moved to the center of the room. Do you dance, Miss Montgomery? Samuel asked, setting down his cup. I do, though I'm not familiar with Western dances. He offered his hand. Not so different from Eastern ones, just muddier boots. His hand was warm and calloused as it closed around hers, and Olivia discovered that Samuel Hayes moved with surprising grace for such a large man. As they circled the floor, she became aware of admiring glances from the townspeople. People are staring, she whispered. Not used to seeing me dance, he replied, or smile much, I expect. You should smile more often, she told him. It suits you. His arm tightened slightly around her waist. Haven't had much reason to until lately. The evening passed in a pleasant blur, and Olivia found herself reluctant for it to end as Samuel walked her home through the silent, snow-covered streets. I had a wonderful time, she told him as they reached her door. Samuel nodded, his breath forming clouds in the cold night air. Good to see you enjoying yourself. Town's taken a shine to you. And you, Mr. Hayes. The words slipped out before she could reconsider them. Have you taken a shine as well? In the moonlight, his expression was unreadable as he studied her face. Then very deliberately, he removed his glove and reached out to brush a snowflake from her cheek, his fingers lingering against her skin. I believe I have, Miss Montgomery, he said softly. More than is probably wise. Before she could respond, he stepped back, replacing his glove. Good night, Olivia. It was the first time he'd used her given name, and it hung in the air between them like a promise as he turned and walked away. Winter deepened, bringing harsh storms that occasionally forced Olivia to cancel school. During one particularly fierce blizzard in December, she was startled by a knock at her door. Opening it revealed Samuel, nearly covered in snow, carrying supplies. Thought you might need provisions, he explained, stamping snow from his boots. Storms likely to last 3 days, according to old Jim Miller's knee. You shouldn't have risked coming out in this, she scolded, helping him unload canned goods, flour, and coffee. Checked on all the outlying homes, he said dismissively. You were my last stop. Olivia busied herself making coffee while Samuel built up her fire. The howling wind made conversation difficult, but there was something comforting about his solid presence in her small home. How are you finding winter in Saint Elmo? He asked, accepting the steaming cup she offered. Challenging, she admitted. Beautiful but harsh. Like most worthwhile things. His eyes met hers over the rim of his cup. The storm rattled the windows, and Olivia pulled her shawl tighter. Will you be able to get back safely? Samuel glanced outside at the white blur of snowfall. Probably best if I wait a bit for it to let up. They talked for hours as the blizzard raged about her childhood in Philadelphia, his journey west with his father and sister, her dreams of making a difference as a teacher, his struggles keeping the store afloat during mining downturns. "Why did you really come west, Olivia?" he asked finally. "There must have been teaching positions back east." She traced the rim of her cup, considering her answer. "After father died, there was pressure to marry, a family friend older, established, kind enough, but there was nothing there. No spark, no passion." She looked up at him. "I wanted to choose my own path. And has Saint Elmo been what you hoped?" "More," she said honestly. "I've found challenges, yes, but also a community, purpose, and," she hesitated, "and," he prompted, "unexpected connections," she finished softly. The fire crackled in the silence that followed, and Samuel leaned forward, his expression serious. "Olivia, I'm not an educated man, don't have fancy words or city manners, but since the day I saw you in the mud, something changed. Never believed in such notions before, but a tremendous crash interrupted him as a pine branch broke under the weight of snow and struck the roof. Both jumped to their feet as snow began filtering through a new crack in the ceiling. "We need to shore that up before it gets worse," Samuel said, practical concerns immediately taking precedence. They worked together to place buckets under the leak, and Samuel improvised repairs that would hold until proper fixes could be made. By the time they finished, the storm had begun to ease. "I should go while there's a break in the weather," Samuel said reluctantly, putting on his coat. "Sarah will be worried." At the door he paused. "What I was trying to say earlier." "Yes," Olivia prompted, heart racing. He shook his head. "Better said another time, when we're not half frozen and dealing with roof repairs." His hand reached out to touch her cheek briefly. "Stay warm, Olivia." Christmas approached, bringing festivities despite the harsh weather. The schoolchildren prepared a small pageant, and the entire town gathered to watch. Afterward, as families dispersed into the cold night, Samuel approached Olivia with a small package. "Merry Christmas," he said simply. Inside was a beautiful fountain pen with her initials engraved on it. "Samuel, it's exquisite," she breathed. "But I can't accept something so expensive." "You can and you will," he insisted. "Saw how you've been making do with that old nib that keeps splattering your papers." Touched by his thoughtfulness, Olivia retrieved a package from her desk. "I have something for you too." Samuel unwrapped the hand-knitted scarf with reverence, running his fingers over the careful stitches. "You made this." "Sarah gave me some pointers," Olivia admitted. "My first attempt at Western crafts." He immediately wrapped it around his neck. "No one's made me anything since Ma died," he said quietly. The new year brought fresh challenges as influenza swept through Saint Elmo. Olivia closed the school and joined other women in tending the sick. Samuel organized supply deliveries to affected homes, working tirelessly to ensure no one went without necessities. They often crossed paths during these efforts, exchanging tired smiles and brief words of encouragement. One evening, Olivia found Samuel sitting alone on the steps of the church, head in his hands. "Samuel," she called softly, approaching. "Are you unwell?" He looked up, exhaustion etched in every line of his face. "The Wilkins boy didn't make it." Olivia sat beside him, taking his hand in hers. 10-year-old Thomas had been one of her brightest students. "I'm so sorry." "Brought the medicine, but it was too late," he said hoarsely. "Just like with Pa, never fast enough." Understanding dawned. "Your father died of influenza too," Samuel nodded. 3 years ago. Same symptoms, same helpless feeling. Without hesitation, Olivia wrapped her arms around his broad shoulders, offering the comfort of human touch. Samuel remained rigid for a moment before yielding, his face buried against her neck as silent grief shook him. They stayed that way until the cold forced them to move, something fundamental having shifted between them. As they walked back toward town, Samuel kept her hand firmly in his. By February, the epidemic had passed, leaving the town to heal and rebuild. School resumed, and life settled into a new rhythm. Samuel now openly called on Olivia several times a week, taking her for sleigh rides or simply sitting by her fire talking late into the evening. The town took their courtship as a given, though neither had formally declared their intentions. That changed on a clear, cold evening as they walked back from a community supper at the church. "Spring will be here soon," Samuel remarked, his hand warm around hers despite the chill. "Hard to believe when everything's still covered in snow," Olivia replied. "Things change quickly in the mountains. One day ice, next day wildflowers." He stopped walking, turning to face her. "Been thinking a lot lately about change, about permanence too." Olivia's heart quickened. Have you? Never thought I'd stay in Saint Elmo forever, he continued. Always had notions of moving on, finding someplace bigger maybe, until recently. What changed? She asked softly. Found something worth staying for, he said simply. Someone, rather, in the starlight, his eyes searched hers. I'm not asking yet what I want to ask, because it's too soon and you deserve better than a rushed proposal. But I am asking if I might have permission to continue calling on you with serious intentions. Olivia smiled, reaching up to touch his face. Samuel Hayes, you've had my heart since you helped me from the mud and told me I didn't belong down there. He pulled her close then, his kiss tentative at first, then deepening as she responded. When they finally broke apart, his smile was illuminated by moonlight. Been wanting to do that since the Christmas pageant, he confessed. Why did you wait so long? She teased. Wanted to be sure you wouldn't slap me, he chuckled, drawing her close again. As March brought the first hints of spring, Olivia received an unexpected letter from Philadelphia, an offer to teach at a prestigious girls' school at twice her current salary. The opportunity would have been a dream 6 months earlier, but now she found herself torn. She hadn't mentioned the letter to Samuel, uncertain how to broach the subject. But as they picnicked beside the newly thawed creek one Sunday afternoon, he sensed her distraction. Something troubling you? He asked, watching her closely. You've been quiet all day. Olivia sighed, reaching for her reticule. I received this last week, she said, handing him the letter. Samuel read it carefully, his expression unreadable. When he finished, he simply folded it and returned it to her. Quite an opportunity, he said neutrally. Yes, she agreed, watching him. When do they need your answer? By month's end, he nodded, looking out at the rushing water. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, she said carefully, that 6 months ago I would have accepted immediately. And now? His voice was steady, but she could see tension in his shoulders. Now I find my priorities have changed significantly. She moved closer to him on the blanket. I've built a life here, Samuel, with the children, the town, with you. His eyes met hers, hope warring with doubt. Don't want you sacrificing opportunities on my account. It wouldn't be a sacrifice, she corrected him. It would be a choice, my choice. And what would you choose, Olivia Montgomery, if you were choosing freely? She took his hand, lacing their fingers together. I would choose the man who lifted me from the mud. Who brings me firewood without being asked. Who knows exactly when I need company and when I need solitude. Samuel pulled her into his arms, his kiss conveying everything words couldn't. When they parted, he pressed his forehead to hers. Stay, he whispered. Not for the town or the children. For us, she agreed softly. That evening, under a canopy of emerging stars, Samuel formally asked Olivia to be his wife. They were married in May when the mountainsides erupted in wildflowers, in a ceremony attended by the entire town. Sarah, now expecting her first child, embraced Olivia with tears of joy. He's smiled more since meeting you than in all the years before, she whispered. The Clayton boys, who had pushed Olivia into the mud on her arrival, sheepishly presented the couple with a handcrafted table as a wedding gift, a piece offering orchestrated by their now sober father. Samuel purchased land on the edge of town and built a home with his own hands, larger than the store apartment but still modest, with a wide porch facing the mountains and extra rooms for the future, as he put it with a meaningful glance. Olivia continued teaching, her classroom growing as new families moved to Saint Elmo. In the evenings, she would often find Samuel waiting outside the schoolhouse, ready to walk her home just as he had that first snowy night of their courtship. Their first child, a son named James after Samuel's father, arrived the following spring, strong-lunged and green-eyed like his father. 2 years later, Emma joined them, with Olivia's dark curls and determined expression. The town of Saint Elmo grew and prospered along with the Hayes family. Samuel expanded the general store, adding a book section at Olivia's suggestion that became surprisingly popular among the miners and ranchers. Together, they helped establish a proper library and advocated for a town doctor. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Samuel took Olivia back to the creek where he had proposed. Their children were staying with Sarah for the night, giving them a rare moment alone. Happy? He asked, arms around her as they watched the sunset paint the mountains gold and crimson. Completely, she assured him, leaning back against his chest. Though I sometimes wonder what would have happened if those boys hadn't pushed me into the mud that day. Samuel chuckled, his breath warm against her ear. I'd have found another excuse to meet you. Was halfway to the stage when I saw it happen coming to introduce myself to the new school teacher everyone was talking about. Were you really? She asked, surprised. Had my good shirt on and everything, he confirmed. Sarah's idea, she was determined to find me a wife. Olivia turned in his arms, smiling up at him. Then I suppose I owe Sarah my thanks. No, he said seriously, brushing a strand of hair from her face. What happened was meant to be, mud and all. When I saw you there, something just knew you were the one person I couldn't let stay down. My hero, she murmured, rising on tiptoes to kiss him. As twilight descended over the Colorado mountains, Samuel and Olivia Hayes walked hand in hand back to the town that had become their home, their path illuminated by emerging stars, so much like the path that had led a Philadelphia schoolteacher and a Colorado shopkeeper to find love in the most unexpected of circumstances, beginning with a simple act of kindness and 7 words. You don't belong down there. 10 years after her arrival in Saint Elmo, Olivia stood on the porch of their expanded home, watching Samuel teaching their 3rd child, 4-year-old Thomas, to ride his first pony. Emma, now 7, sat on the steps reading aloud to James, who at 9 was already showing his father's talent for figures and practical matters. The town had changed, the railroad had finally reached them, bringing new commerce and opportunities. Samuel now sat on the town council, while Olivia had been appointed head of the newly established school board. Their lives had grown in ways neither could have imagined on that fateful day by the stagecoach. Yet some things remained constant, the mountains standing sentinel around their valley, the changing seasons marking time's passage, and most importantly, the love that had begun with a simple act of kindness in the mud of a frontier town street. You know, Samuel said later that evening as they sat on their porch watching the sunset, I never did properly thank those Clayton boys. Olivia laughed, resting her head on his shoulder. For pushing me into the mud, that seems odd. Best thing that ever happened to me, he said with a wink. Gave me the chance to be a hero in front of the prettiest woman in Colorado territory. Hardly heroic to help someone up, she teased. Samuel's arm tightened around her shoulders. Wasn't the action that mattered, it was who I was helping. As twilight descended over Saint Elmo, Samuel and Olivia Hayes sat contentedly in the life they had built together, a life that had begun with a fall, a helping hand, and 7 simple words that had changed everything.